Alright guys, hope this is recording. So, along the lines of topics of dating and finance and attraction, I wonder what people think about, finances and attraction, like how that plays a role. Because I think it's kind of interesting that, at least in Western American culture, usually people aren't like maybe too forthcoming with kind of topics surrounding their finances. So as far as topics like expenses, debt, budgeting, plans for their money, like, I don't know. Like, I know with my friends, like, I'm pretty honest about, they usually know how much I make. I think of all my friends, I'm probably the cheapest one, in all honesty. Like, I don't really have a very big appetite for expensive things. I like events. That's kind of my bread and butter is, or my cup of tea. I wouldn't say bread and butter. I don't really make money out of it, but going to events, attending events, hanging out at events, mostly concerts, music related things, but festivals, all just whatever, like drag night, bingo night, whatever. Birthday parties, like I kind of just like, being with my friends and hanging out and doing stuff together with people, planning to do stuff together and then going back and hanging out and like having fun with one another. I mean, all of that is something, those are all things that I really enjoy. And, yeah, like I find those types of things enjoyable. But, I do wonder too. Where else down again? Sorry. Please excuse all my beeping and things. Like, there's people coming near my car and walking near my car and parking near my car and stuff, and so I kind of like the windows up sometimes. But yeah, just coming across, people, usually, I would say for me, usually when I see people in like an environment where I'm like first getting to know them, first meeting them, or when I'm like hanging out with them, um, uh, you know, I like, I'd say I tend to like, or I tend to have more of an attraction towards, people who maybe they don't like the same exact stuff like concerts and all that all the time, but they can hang and they can do that or have some other sense of adventure of stuff that they like to do. Um, Maybe similar stuff, maybe not, but they kind of have some stuff that they enjoy, and that you can go out and do those types of activities together, even if it's not concerts. Like, I do tend to find it attractive when people kind of like to travel a little bit, even if it's like, not that far away, but like a day trip or like an overnight trip or that kind of thing. Even that to me is nice. Um, just get out of town for a while, every so often. Like for me, usually it's like once a month is usually good enough to have either like an event or a little out of town experience. Like I notice I'm kind of happier with that, and I start feeling a little restless, a little um, not so uh, excited about upcoming plans, or like, don't really have that kind of like pep. It gets me out of my routine. It gets me kind of just, I don't know, just kind of rejuvenates me in a way, just to get, to be able to reach small financial goals like that, and just take a little time out of town a little bit and just kind of chill, and I tend to me that tends to be a big financially motivating factor. um, Job choices, job security, that kind of thing. A lot of it for me, is rooted, the goals are kind of rooted in being able to maintain certain relationships with people, like in closer proximity, just making it easy to be able to see people that I like being around, want to be around, environments that I find healing and just peaceful and nice, and places I want to live at, and being able to be near the stuff I want to be near, certain beaches I want to be near, certain parks I want to be near, certain restaurants I want to be near, and just places where I do things that I normally do, like being able to live within like a 10-15 minute Uber drive. you know uh, that's usually where my goals are. It's usually like social related stuff, um, different relationships I have with people, and the area, like kind of my relationship with the area, um, too. And then the other people, just, you know, experiences, or potential for experiences. Like there are some places where I know people, but I'm like, even if I know them, I love them, they're family. But there's nothing that really goes on there. Like some places in the Midwest where I'm like, I don't want to live there. Like I love the people I know who live in certain places, but I'm like, I'm not really into trying to like live with them. So like live in that area and just not have anything to do that stuff that I actually care to actually want to do. Um, yeah, that's kind of how I see it, how I've thought about it, and yeah, I don't really think about it way too much. Like it's not like an immediate concern of mine, but it is something kind of in the back of my head where I'm like, oh, like, certain stuff I kind of don't want to deal with. Um, like I know, like every now and then, almost everybody, gets behind on bills or has some kind of like financial issue, even if it is something as simple but as obnoxious and painful as somebody hacking your bank account, or fraud or something, and having to like change your cards, and then you're like, damn, like now I gotta like change my card or whatever, or some charge coming out that's like way too much. Like one of my friends told me that there's some charge for something, I don't know if it was like LinkedIn or like Adobe or something, where it was like 700-800 a month or something, or a year or whatever. Once the free trial ended, it was like a little less than like $1,000, like a couple hundred less than $1,000, just to renew. Like it would automatically renew, and they were able to cancel it. But stuff like that, where it's like, okay, that's an expense that's like, yeah, if you really don't want it, that's the kind of stuff I would say, like I'm not judging the friend. I'm just saying, like, because he was able to cancel it, so he was lucky, and that's good, and I'm happy for him. But I wouldn't find it very attractive to be with somebody who has things like that, where it's like recurrent charges that they can't afford, and like a lot of like problems coming out, like all the time. If it's like that, where it's just so unorganized all the time, where there's just money just like flying out of pocket, like God only knows where it's going. Um, or when people, I don't know, like this happened to me recently, some like, and I'm not saying, like, I'm not trying to sound like an asshole, but it's like, if somebody's gonna like buy me something, and be nice, like try to make a nice gesture of it, but then they're also at the same time telling me that they don't know if they have enough money for what they're in the store buying, and they're like excessively shopping for stuff where it's like you don't need to buy this much of stuff, you know? Like they kind of go crazy in the store and start just like overdoing it, and then, you know, so to see somebody doing that, like kind of doing like the crazed shopping, and not really having a um like somebody doing that kind of crazed style shopping and not really uh, being good with their financial planning, and um, like, but yeah, I would say the exception would be like, yeah, the occasional emergency that comes up, like some auto payment thing that costs way too much, uh, or something like that. But I think, you know, usually people have an emergency fund and some savings that they can easily access. That's not going to happen. Like usually, even if your car breaks down per se, usually if you have a couple thousand set aside, you can at least get another old used car, or get all the car repairs that you need within a $2,000 range. Like I would say most repairs aren't going to run you over $2,000 in all honesty. Like by that point you can get another used car, especially if you sell your completely damaged car. And yeah, it would take some time, but it's like that $1,000 or so, or $2,000 would definitely hold a person over. So if somebody has at least 2K in savings, and they say most Americans, it's common that most Americans do not have $2,000 in savings. Most Americans don't have $1,000 in savings. And so taking that kind of thing into consideration as well, it's like, well, you don't have the money in savings, you know, you don't have savings for emergencies. And then that's how people get into debt, because it's not that hard to get loans or credit cards and all that kind of stuff, and just get money to your name where you're going to owe more and all this kind of stuff. And people always say the same thing. I've been there too, and I've said the same thing. It's like, I'm going to get this loan, or I'm going to get this credit card, and then I'm going to pay it all back right away and then never do it again. And that first payment comes, and it's like, all right, I have the money, it's all ready. But I'd rather pay $200 or $150 twice a month for 2 years than pay off like $2,500 all at once, you know. And they know that you would rather do that. Like even if you have the money, you'd rather not be a little more broke than usual for 2 weeks until your next paycheck than just, you know, even if you could swing it and you're like, okay, maybe I just won't go to that, you know, that concert I paid for, or maybe I just won't do that other thing that I paid for, just that one thing, you know, just stay home, just bear down, stay at home, eat cheap, not go out, and just suck it up for 2 weeks till your next paycheck, or for 4 weeks till your paycheck of the next month or whatever, and just pay what you owe and pay it all off. People would rather pay it down or just slowly just make minimal payments for months, ending up paying like, I don't know how much, but let's say $3,000 a month for even a year is like $3,600, right? No. Yeah, $3,600. And for 2 years, it's like $7,200. So somebody having to pay $3,600 to $7,200 versus $2,500. I mean, that doesn't make any sense, right? On a loan where you could get, just to get $2,000 or $1,500, you know, if it's like $2,000, you're probably gonna be, if it's like a payday loan type thing, you're probably paying back $2,500 or $2,800 or somewhere around there. Like there's ridiculous rates, but they know that, you know, human nature, you're not gonna want to pay it back right away. But that's not an attractive quality necessarily. I'm not saying I've never done that, but you know, it is one of those things that's like, okay, if I see somebody that keeps doing stuff like that, that's not, attractive to see, somebody would rather pay down their debt and end up paying, so much more extra money, versus just paying it off. Um, and it's hard, it's easy for me to sit here and say stuff like that. Like, I'm not saying I'm like rolling in money or anything, but I'm just saying, like, um, just the thought process of it, right? Like, when you look at the thought process of what's actually happening, it's like, once you look at the numbers and the math, it's like, okay, like, instead of sacrificing 2 to 4 weeks, even if I know I can make it, but just have to cut out some stuff, I'd rather not cut out stuff for 2 to 4 weeks, and I'd rather pay more money, almost double, if not almost triple, in the course of like 12 months or 24 months, for something that could have been handled in 2 to 4 weeks. Now, if it can't be handled, that probably means that, the loan or whatever credit line or whatever amount shouldn't be taken out. Because if it couldn't be handled, that's already irresponsible. Like, it's already irresponsible. I'm talking to myself here too. Like, it's already irresponsible to not have the funds saved. But second to that, it's going to be irresponsible to take out a credit line or a loan on an amount of money that you can't afford to pay off right away. Because I feel like if you are relying on paying something down, that means you don't have the money for it, and you're not going to have the money very soon, and then you're going to end up being, paying more money. Like, imagine that, paying $1,600, like $1,500 more, or $1,600. Let me see if it's 2,036. It's 14. No, that's 16. Sorry. So, I don't know. Like, yeah, paying 1,600 more. Almost minimally. Almost minimally paying 1,600 more, or almost like 3,200 more over 2 years. It's like, people don't want that instant pain. They'd rather just forget about it and have the money coming out of their checks. And that's over $1,000 in a year that you could have, And if you divide that up, that 1,600 into each month, I gotta do the math on it because I can't do that in my head. I'm struggling today, guys. Yeah, that's over $130 a month that you could have just on 1 year. And if you ended up having to pay that extra $5,200 over a 2-year period, that's over $400 a month that you could have. That's every week over $100, of extra money every single week. Every single week, every single week, that's about $108, a little more than that, every single week for 2 years that you're just throwing, just $108, $108. That's what those kind of loans look like. And I mean, I've been there, I've taken them, I've used them. I feel like the conversation is different when we start talking about basic needs getting met, those are different stories, It's like, people gotta eat, you gotta be able to get to and from work so you can make the money and stuff like that. But again, usually if people have that emergency fund, or even if they can use food banks and that kind of stuff, like, you can supplement your income. Sometimes it does take sucking up the ego and being less impulsive, and kind of, having a couple rough weeks, having a like 4 week, 4 week month or so where you're just like, man, like, like if it might suck for people when they can't go out to eat, you know, meals, pay for fast food, get some extra luxurious groceries and stuff like that. Maybe you're eating cheaper. I'm not saying you have to decrease the quality of your life and not focus on your health anymore and eat like really crappy stuff. Like, you don't really have to do that necessarily. I don't think that is required. I don't. I think you can still eat high quality meals off of a cheap budget, but it does take cooking at home. Yeah, you'd have to actually prepare the food at home, so it does take more time and energy. Um, and then if you have situations like a lot of people I know, and I've been in this situation too, having housemates, roommates, things like that, where it's like you're not maybe comfortable being in the kitchen cooking. That used to cost me a lot of money. Like I was like, I'm just not comfortable being around people cooking, when I have to talk to them because I'm in the kitchen now. And, or like waiting to use the kitchen where it's like, dude, I'm hungry now and I gotta wait at least 30-40 minutes for this other person with the stove or the oven, or eat like at really weird times and cook my meals like either really early or really late. It's like you have a little less freedom, but it does save a lot of money. Food can be a really big expense when you're eating takeout a lot, and that can be rough on your health too, because it's not always like the healthiest. So yeah, like, but yeah, like when it comes to like an attraction or like different things to consider, I would say those are things to consider is, if a person actually truly takes responsibility, like, yeah, if they actually truly take responsibility their for their actions, for their spending. They do say, finances are very closely related to mental health in a way, almost like how cleaning is very closely related to mental health too. Like, there's a lot of things that are very closely related to mental health, physical health. So things like cleaning, things like spending habits, like responsible spending habits, and debts, being able to get out of debt, being able to kind of get and stay financially stable, being able to hold a job, keep a job, move up at a job. Like, of course there's going to be like toxic work environments and stuff where you get overlooked, or like there's politics there and you're like not getting promotions that you need or want, or getting passed over and stuff like that happens. But I'm just talking just in general. Is there like a pattern throughout life of not being able to keep work? Is there a pattern throughout life of getting demoted, and not getting, promoted, or at least verbally recognized if you're not getting financially recognized? Like, are you getting little awards? Are people giving you kudos? Are people just talking about your work performance, explaining and expressing how much they value your performance and stuff? Like, at the very least, are you getting praise at all? Because if you're not, or if people seem to like never want to rely on you for stuff, or if they never try to get you to do something extra, or they just don't trust your work or whatever, that's not a good sign. But yeah, having those types of experiences, yeah, it's not always the easiest thing to try to say, like I am not trying to be like rude or judgmental about it, or being like I'm better than people. Like, I've still got plenty of like like student loan debt, so I can't even say that I don't have any debt. But that's not really like my primary concern right now. Like that is debt that I kind of expect to have for a while. And once I get my new job, I'm going to be kind of more aggressively attacking that once I move. Like, I'm not prioritizing that debt over moving. I'm prioritizing moving and that kind of thing. So I would say on my end, that's maybe not the most responsible decision, but I would rather, hold to that, you know, to that kind of, debt issue, and not be too, aggressive on it. It's just my own personal choice because it is a big chunk of money, and I don't intend on paying it back anytime soon. So, yeah, but yeah, definitely working on income streams, things like that. It's not easy out there, guys. Like, I know, like, I'm one of the people. Like, I'm not like any special senator or any kind of person that has anything other than real life experience, current experience, an almost average experience, but definitely, you know, having a lifestyle of, having to work hard and things like that. I've never really had like a very easy job. So it's always been kind of rough to get underpaid for doing work that is already pretty strenuous. That's always been pretty strenuous. Like, that has been a hard lifestyle to keep up, and I definitely, I don't mind hard work. I don't mind, but I feel like at a certain point, you have to be getting paid out for it. At a certain point, it can't just be, you know, like you're barely making your financial goals. At a certain point, you don't really want that. So, yeah. Um, yeah, it can just be a little, like a bit of a challenge to kind of like step back and start to adjust. It's not impossible, but a lot of times it really takes, that effort, that energy, just to put a plan in place. I think that is probably maybe that's just my own opinion, but I do find it attractive when people have like a plan in place. Like, even if they're not like wealthy, but seeing people, budgeting or taking on more work, or seeing people, paying off their cards, and being able to kind of like raise their credit scores and stuff like that. Like, seeing people get financially stable, that's something that I really like to see. Like, I find that attractive, and I also find it attractive, when there's people who are, you know, like able to pay you back. Like, that's always kind of like a weird thing to me, is when like people don't want to pay you back, you know, or when they say it where it's like lip service, and then they're like, oh yeah, I'll pay you back, and then they don't. Um, to me, I'm like, I feel like people, um, that is a sign of irresponsibility. That maybe they have something else going on, because if they're willing to borrow the money and not pay it back, it's not a good look. But yeah, so those are just kind of the things that come to my mind. Like, again, I'm not trying to sound like a judgmental jerk, but just personally, those are things that come up when I'm like, okay, like if it's friendships, I don't really mind, but I have found it hard to, okay, I'll put it this way. It's not that it's hard to have friends that can't afford to do stuff. That isn't the hard part. The hard part is having friends who are flaky because they can't afford to do stuff. So, like when you kind of plan, to meet them and then they can't meet because they can't afford the gas, or like you want to go out to eat dinner or something and you've been planning it for a couple weeks, and it's like, dude, we're just gonna go to like Del Taco or something and like grab a couple cheap tacos and maybe some coffee or something, and they can't afford that or something like that, where it's kind of like, okay, like I'm trying to make it convenient for you. I'm trying to come to you and do this and hang out with you and make it more convenient, and still they're not able to afford it. And I'm not saying people need to spend their money doing a lot of stuff, but it's like when it comes to stuff like that, or not being able to afford the rent, or not being able to like get work or maintain jobs and stuff like that, like I kind of find that kind of stuff a little concerning, because something's up, and usually people can figure it out, especially if they're talking to like professionals about that. uh, I do think, if people always find themselves in debt, if people always find themselves having trouble with work, they should consult a professional about that, because something's up. Like, I'm not saying like, okay, just because somebody lost one job or something. Like, I think a lot of us have maybe not performed so well on a job, or had a job that just wasn't a good fit, or like the bosses or work environment just maybe weren't a good fit. Like, that happens, that kind of thing happens. But you know, if people consistently can't pay their rent for months on end or a year, they can't keep work, ever, like, because I've definitely known people who just can't keep jobs. I'm not even talking about the people who hop jobs all the time. I just mean the people who just can't keep them, who get like fired or let go, and just can't make it to work on time. Can't you know can't pull a shift. Um, just can't get to a functional level. Um, I find that concerning, and I think, like, I'm not trying to like shame people. I think my tone is like, because I'm tired, guys. I'm tired. I just drank a bunch of coffee. I feel like my tone is off, and I'm sounding judgmental, and I'm sounding like a jerk, and I'm like, oh, like, you shouldn't ever do this. But think I think it's something to think about, because it's like, I don't consider myself a very shallow person. Like, really, I don't. Like, even when it comes to like dating and stuff, like, a person doesn't have to be like a supermodel for me to be like attracted to them. They don't have to be that popular for me to, want to be around them and stuff. Like, I have friends, close friends, of all different kinds that, I'm willing to connect with. Like, yeah, I even have friends that, annoy me sometimes, and it's fine, I get over it and I'm just like, whatever, that's just how it was, and I can move on, like, I'm not, usually that, harsh on, the reality of socializing and the reality of just the human flaw. Like, I'm not the most patient person. Like, I'm definitely flawed in that sometimes I probably have too high of expectations for people. I do expect people to kind of uphold their word. Like, I know that, there is this kind of like fleeting kind of like, I've drunk planned with people and been like, did I plan to meet them today? Or like, what was the actual plan? I've done things like that where I'm like, I don't really know, like maybe that person was really looking forward to hanging out tomorrow, and I just like blew them off because I totally was not even sober planning, and I didn't even remember if we actually planned, or like were we serious, like, you know, or that kind of thing, you know, like I'm not perfect. Like I can be rude to people and just say things on the fly and not really mean to be insensitive, but not come across as like super, you know, like the most sensitive, caring, understanding person, or being validating towards people, or like trying to give people advice when they don't really want it, like when they might just want me to lend an ear, and I'm just kind of like, oh, you could do this or that, you know. And sometimes it's like, well, you're my friend, so I'm gonna like throw ideas out there, but maybe they don't want that, or maybe I'm just bothering them, you know. Like I can be obnoxious and a little bit annoying, and just be like, hey, like just kind of bugging people when they're busy and stuff. Um, but things like that, you know, like, and probably more, but I mean, those are things that I know about myself for sure that like aren't like the best of qualities or quirks that I might have and stuff. Um, and you know, I I think I think it's uh uh yeah, like I think it's important to think about how other people see us. Like not in a way that it's like, oh, like I'm making all my decisions and choices based on what other people need and not based on what I want for myself. Not in that way, but just the matter of, you know, other people um being able to kind of fill in, other people being able to kind of like maybe understand better kind of what's going on. Um, you know, I think it's important. I think it's important to consider. Um, I don't find it to be like something to just overlook. Just, you know, if there's someone who is, you know, just like I don't know, because you know those kind of things can get in the way, and when a relationship starts going like deeper, you know, I think, you know, if people do decide to get to a point where they're, you know, in a long-term relationship, partnership, you know, living together, sharing expenses, and one or both people or however many people are involved in this relationship are all bad with their expenses, I mean, that's going to be hard to maintain. You know, it's already hard for one individual person to manage their own self and to be aware of one's own expenses. Um, like today, you know, I spent um, close to $16 at McDonald's or so. I, um, you know, I paid $6 parking. So I've spent over $20 today, and I didn't even do anything but get McDonald's and go to the beach. And it's already over $20, you know, and it's like that could have easily been a couple groceries. Nowadays, it's not like you're getting like a few days, that many days of groceries, but it could have been a few days worth of groceries. It wouldn't have been that many groceries, but it would have been some groceries. So, to be able to, you know, kind of bypass that kind of stuff, um, those kind of problems, you know, I was like, well, I know I'm paying today, you know, and I'm gonna get a little gas today, so it might be close to like a $30 something dollar day, and I didn't even do anything. All I did was, you know, get McDonald's, go to the beach, and you know, my tank, just the empty uh, indicator light just came on. I mean, I still have a while I can drive with it on. Like it just came on earlier when I was driving to the beach, which isn't that far. So I think usually I'd have I don't know how long, honestly, but I want to say that means I have at least a gallon left. I probably have more, but usually when the light comes on, I tell myself I'm either getting gas right away or the next time I go drive my car, I'm getting gas. And my car has not been on empty for a very long time. Like, I didn't drive it for a while because I wasn't, like, since the new year, I wasn't gonna drive it anymore. But then we started having trouble with the other car. Like, we also have my brother's car and my dad's car. And my brother's car, I think, doesn't really run. And my dad's car is so freaking old and not maintained. Like, it doesn't even drive fast enough to take it on the freeway. Like, I don't feel comfortable driving it over 40. So I try not to really do that. So I don't know, but it can be a little hard to get a hustle on, these days. And it's easy to get down. Like last night I was pretty wiped out, and because I didn't sleep well, and then this morning I was a little wiped out again because I didn't sleep well last night, and I was just like, dude, like I'm thinking like, dude, like, and yes, I do say dude a lot, like that's just how I talk. Um, you know, where I'm from, that is not uncommon, but somebody pointed it out to me once. They're like, yeah, you say dude, and they thought it was funny, but I'm like, yeah, I say dude. Um, I'm from a beach city. We say dude, like it's not like that weird of a thing. Um, but I don't know that many people who say it. But it's just, well, other than where I live. But it's just kind of funny. I'm like, come on, like, um, you know, it's hard though. It's hard to get things in check without taking that step back. Because without taking the step back, it's hard to see clear. Like this break I've been taking this year has been the biggest step back I've ever taken, and I'm noticing a lot of stuff that I'm like, dude, like, there's a lot of stuff I was screwing up for a lot of years that I didn't really notice. How much of how much I was burdening myself, like how much I was gonna have to deal with. Okay, if I don't exercise, I'm just not gonna sleep good, and I'm not gonna feel good, and I'm gonna be grumpy. And when I want to do athletic stuff, or when my friends call me up and want to play like a pickup game of tennis or soccer, or invite me to play basketball with them, or want to go snowboarding or go hiking or whatever, I'll hesitate because I won't feel in shape. Like that's a newer experience for me in the last few years of being like not as physically confident, and like as confident in my physical fitness. Like, to me, that's like, that was never like a thing. Like, I would always wake up before most people that I knew on like weekend morning, go for a hike by myself, and like not really have to even think about it. And now it's like, I don't know, like I might feel weird, or I might not enjoy it, or something might come up, and it might be bad. It might be bad for me. And yeah, I've definitely felt those ways. And like even today, right now, when I'm recording, I'm like, dude, like um I haven't really done that much today, but I woke up. That's one thing I did. Got up out of bed. I woke up, got up out of bed. um I mean, I don't know. My phone battery's dying, but I think I'm gonna go to the house, charge my phone for a couple minutes while I'm there, or bring something where I can like kind of charge my phone while I'm driving. I don't know what I could use for that. Maybe my laptop. I don't know. I don't have a car charger because my outlet doesn't work. But yeah, like I think I should go to the gym. I mean, I'm just sitting here. I'm just gonna go home and sit there anyways. I do have a lot of work I need to get done, but I would like to go to the gym. I would like to do some exercise. I drank a lot of coffee, and But it's things like that where I'm just like, okay, if I, yesterday I was like, all right, I'm definitely going to the gym tomorrow. And, I'm definitely, working on some career related stuff tomorrow. And as I didn't sleep good, the more and more I started feeling tired and fatigued and frustrated with not sleeping, the more and more I was like, oh no, I'm exhausted and I don't feel super well. And the more and more I started canceling for myself, I'm not gonna go to the gym. I'm not gonna go. I'm gonna skip the gym today. I ate McDonald's, so I skipped some healthy food options today. I've already made a couple decisions that were not in the plan. I'm like, dude, this was not in the plan. I wasn't supposed to spend like close to 35-ish dollars today and eat McDonald's. It's like, but I'm like, okay, let me get some of it right. Let me go to the gym. Like, I got my sunlight, I got my fresh air, and I don't have a desire to really go home. I'm kind of like, if I go home, I just don't feel like I'm going to be there all day today. So the next best place is the gym. So I think I'm just going to go get up and go over to the gym and not really I don't know, guys. I don't know. I could walk a little bit at the beach too because I'm already here, but I just don't know. Like, I feel like it's so, like, there's so many things that have to be maintained just to do something basic, like keeping up with finances, keeping up with, expenses, having all the categories on the balance wheel sticking to a balance. It takes a lot to get to that place, because it takes daily steps every single day and being consistent in a consecutive daily way. And if you are going to take breaks on some of it, allotting certain days for those breaks, but it can't be like, there does become a certain point where, say for example, if I haven't gone to the gym for a certain amount of days or haven't worked out for a certain amount of days, now it's a problem. It's like, if I haven't exercised for a certain amount of time, now it's an issue. And I feel like we don't always experience things like that. Like, it's, yeah, it's kind of common to run into experiences where, it's just kind of not going too good, with things. And once everything gets kind of out of whack, it's going to become more noticeable too. It's like, if it's like, well, now everything is kind of like not what I had planned it to seem like, that's going to start becoming an issue. So I don't know, it's a lot to think about, but one thing, really just thinking about how when I think about like how my actions are perceived by others. Everybody knows I'm a cheapskate. Everybody knows I don't have an excessive lifestyle. I do things differently than a lot of people do. I try not to buy certain things or pay for certain things if I haven't reached the amount of my financial goal that I'm trying to reach to pay for that thing or to afford that thing. Like, I try not to anymore. I try not to make payments on things. But say, for example, you know how you can do payment plans for tickets, right? So say if I'm going to go to like a music festival that costs, there's one coming up with like Tool, Metallica, all these guys. I think it costs like $600 starting, for general admission or something. And it's like a 3-day concert in the desert in California, right? And I think those types of concerts, a lot of times, or music festivals, whatever, they have payment plans. And I'm like, I don't want a payment plan, like, I don't want to get on a payment plan to pay for something like that. Like, to me, it's like that's too expensive, to be trying to make payments on it. But also, one thing I do notice is that, okay, like, I can put myself on a payment plan for my own personal wallet and be like, okay, like, I'm going to pay this off in like 6 installments. So then that means every month I need to allot $100 towards that price. So that's my example of like making my own weird little financial goals. It's like, yeah, I need to make up that $100. So like I set aside the $100 for what I paid, or made up the $100, made an extra $100 every month to pay for that thing, even though it's already paid for. Like, I'm not getting on their payment plan, but like what I'm saying is I'll like make a payment schedule for myself, like make more money basically to pay for this stuff. So that's kind of how I operate. I kind of made up that weird thing. I don't know if other people do that, but I kind of made it up for myself because I'm like, I'll be motivated to pay it off. But I know it's weird. I know most people would rather just put it on a credit card if they couldn't afford it, or would just afford it out of pocket and not try to make up the money. But, I see it as a way to be kind of, I don't know. To me, it's a little bit of a responsibility thing, for my own finances. Because I'm like, well, if I'm going to be dishing out that much money on tickets, I don't want to spend so much on tickets, so much on tickets to a point where I'm literally not even, you know, paying what I'm supposed to pay, if that makes sense, like trying to budget for like $600 tickets every couple months. I mean, that's a lot. It's pretty steep. Like the things that I like and enjoy are becoming very expensive, but they're also becoming very appealing because of the price. I'm noticing they're starting to make a lot of really good shows coming out, and so that's something I've definitely noticed too. But yeah, things are changing, and I don't know, like, this idea of relationships and finances, it comes up a lot uh, in like Ramsey type of content. And, I did see an episode of a highlight where this lady called in talking about some dude she was dating that I think they met, and 4 months later they're like engaged to be married, or trying to get engaged or something along those lines. And she's worried about potential financial abuse, and the guy she's trying to get with is because she has experienced, unfortunately, being a victim of financial abuse in her past, and so she's got something in her gut telling her maybe slow down with the marriage, or like make this guy have to figure out his finances. She found out that he racked up about 70K in debt, and within a 2 or 3 month time period, doesn't seem to have a plan to pay it off. And when she mentioned having separate bank accounts, because she doesn't want to have to deal with his financial issues as a burden on her life once they do become married, uh, he got offended, and, so there's kind of some tension there with somebody who doesn't really seem to have a desire to improve, and knows that they're going to be able to rely on this other person because she's financially stable. And so those types of things, give me ideas, and I'm just kind of like, well, this has to be a topic that other people experience too. And I think, that is an attractive quality when people see that you're financially responsible. Like, maybe you're not rich or can't afford a bunch of stuff, but just at least being like financially responsible is one step in the direction of, just lifestyle planning that a lot of people don't even, take. A lot of people don't even take that kind of step. And so, Yeah, like it's well, I'm gonna post this episode. I gotta get home and kind of charge my phone up a little bit, and then get over to El Gimnasio. Um, is that how you say gym in Spanish? I don't even know what I'm talking about, but basically, yeah, I'm gonna go over to the gym and just sit on the bike for a while, if that. I don't know what I'm really gonna do, but I need to go to the gym. I cannot go home and just sit around the house all day. I've been out of the house for about 3 hours now, and I still don't feel like I want to really go back. So, yeah. Dang. And this parking permit, dang, this sucks that these parking permits now you can't re-enter, so that's so annoying. You can't re-enter for the same day. So once I drive out of here, I can't come back today unless I want to pay $6, or unless I want to park residential and not pay parking, but then have to walk a little bit more. You don't have a view of the ocean when you're parked residential. But yeah, I gotta get home before my phone dies, and then get on over to the gym and enjoy myself some. I need to work out. I need to not skip. So this is what I'm trying to do. But I'm pretty motivated now because I've been out of my head for a while. I'm kind of motivated now to stick to more part of the plan. But yeah, it's like it can be easy to get off the plan. Like I already did it today. I already didn't eat super healthy and spent money on eating pretty much junk food, and then because I got a couple cheeseburgers, it's like I didn't even get that much, but it's pretty much my whole day's worth of calories. And yeah, I'm gonna go to the gym and at least do I'm gonna do I did the podcasting I wanted to do today, and I'm gonna get to the gym like I wanted to do today. I was gonna have to get gas anyway, so I'm gonna have to do that today. And then yeah, so I'm meeting some of the basic stuff today, but not all of it. And considering that I didn't sleep well last night, I think that's fine. I don't have every day doesn't have to be like done very smoothly and go over really well, but I don't want today to be a complete unhealthy day, you know what I mean? And completely off track. So yeah. All right. So with that, I'm just gonna post this up while I'm headed over to the gym. And with that, thanks for listening.